Hello.
Kyle, how's it going?
Good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Looking fancy today. I like the hat.
There's so much brightness in the future.
I like the way you put it.
Yeah.
It's you're talking about brightness. There's no bright. I'm in Chicago, man. It is
Oh
cloudy
man,
as
what
hell.
part? Are you in the South Side? Are you in Chicago proper? Or?
I'm just outside in a burb, so I'm right by O'Hare Airport over there in the
Oh
suburb.
yeah. Yeah. I went to Purdue in Indiana,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah. That's not too far, right over the border.
yeah, my partner's from Chicago, so a lot of love there. Let me turn off. You're recording for video, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Let me turn off the stupid light behind me. Cool. I love that. Like within the confines of an interview in the pandemic age, like we're in my home office. I've
Yeah.
got like a step ladder in the back and like some.
I know. We get to see what everyone's about, especially if I talk to some of these celebrities and stuff. I'm always curious to see what's in the background, what painting or what
Right,
sort of things on the wall. It's the insight that you get that you never probably would.
right. So you Cubs or Sox?
Here's I get a lot of crap for this. I'm both because both franchises have been trash for, centuries pretty much. So until the Cubs recently won. But for me, it's just like, hey, whichever one's winning, I'm cool with. I went to both games growing up, so I would go to Sox games, Cubs games. So for me, it's like I'm all Chicago in that sense. If they're playing each other, I'll go slightly probably Cubs, but
Yeah, that's fair.
otherwise, it's whoever can win eventually,
Right, right. Yeah, my partner's from Orland Park, and
Oh
he's kind
yeah,
of that way too, but way more. He's like, yeah, if
Sox.
anybody asks me, it's Cubs.
Oh, Cubs.
Yeah, he's Cubs.
Oh wow, Orland Park. That's like Sox territory right there. That's pretty much strong South Side kind of Sox fans.
That's funny.
I love it. Where are you at currently?
In Los Angeles,
Okay.
part of LA.
Which part?
Are you familiar with the city?
Yeah. I was living in LA till July, till the pandemic brought me back
Oh
home.
man. Yeah, I live over about a mile from the Grove in Hancock Park. If
Very
you ever hung out
nice.
in Larchmont,
Yeah. I love that. That's a really cool area.
yeah, that's my spot. We go there. Got a 2-year-old son. Take him, go get some ice cream. Used to go to dinner there when you could still do things like that.
Yeah, you guys are locked up now, right? I mean, what, you had a new order of the stay at home.
Bro, I literally just had this like, come on right home right now. Emergency alert. Stay home.
Yeah, well, you're doing that. At least you're abiding by it. Here, it's
Yeah.
still pretty open. I'd say Chicago. I mean, I'm still
Oh,
going to the gym, so I'm like surprised
no,
that
no,
that's
no.
still
I
going
know
on.
about Chicago. So a good friend of mine, my best friend,
Hmm.
he's from Chicago. Well, okay, so I'll just full disclosure, my best friend and partner.
Yep.
He goes to Chicago in July-ish. I think it was. I think it was July or early August for a wedding. He's so freaking excited to be there. His family's there. He's having a good time. No masks. He goes to the gym. He got a haircut,
Yep.
like normal life. Every damn person at the wedding got COVID. Every single one of
Oh,
them
no
came back
way.
with COVID. People left and went to other places and gave a bunch of other people COVID. Like it was bananas. And it
Holy
was,
crap.
I mean, it was terrible. Everybody was okay. Nobody passed away, but
Yeah.
it was just one of those things. Like it was like a very, very, I don't know how to. It's not fairy tale story, but more or less what happened was he called me on Tuesday after he got there. He got there, the wedding was on Sunday. He called me Tuesday. We're having a business talk. He starts coughs a little bit. I'm like, "You okay, man?" He's like, "Oh yeah, no, it's fine, bro. It's the change in the weather from
That
LA,
is something. Yeah, I get that. I get that.
change
But
in the weather. It's fine." And then yeah, no, by I think Friday it was COVID. So
damn, yeah, no, I mean, I'm trying to be careful as hell because, I go by my mother's, I get her, I don't want her leaving the house, I get her groceries and all that. So
yeah.
for
Oh,
me,
what
it's
a
just
good
like,
boy.
huh?
What a good boy.
Well, like someone's got to do it.
Right, right.
My sister's a nurse living in downtown, so it's tougher for her to get around, and she's crazy busy these days with all that's going on too. She actually she's been administering COVID tests for a while, and she ended up catching it too. So she just recovered from it a week ago. So she was out for a while too. So
Wild.
It's the reality of the situation, in so many cases. But as long as we're kind of, I think ideally LA is doing the right thing, because you want to maximize the numbers down, and hopefully the vaccine starts coming out so the elders can get it and people on the front lines. And
End of the week, man. It's like it's insane to think that like literally we're days away from first vaccines. The first woman to get the Pfizer vaccine got it this morning in the UK. It was
it's
like
just crazy because
stuff
remember
like that.
everyone's saying like the earliest it'd be like mid 2021 to late
Yeah,
2021.
right.
It's like these people, I
Now
mean,
I'm
but
gonna start making vacation plans, man. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. The new timeline is like May 2021. Okay, June, I'll
yeah.
be in the south of France. Something,
Oh, that'd be nice, But hey, they're working around the clock. So credit to all the people that are really put in the tough work to make it, safe for everyone and hopefully better for us at the end of the day
Yeah,
too. So
yeah.
I'm
Amen.
so glad to talk to you. It's so cool. I read about your agency. I think you're doing an awesome thing. You have a cool story. I guess hey, wanted to start out from the roots of it all. How did you kind of you went to Purdue, obviously, so that's noted. That's a good education right there, Kyle. So,
It's not bad.
yeah, med school. We'll take it, right?
Yeah.
But what kind of prompted you to start up the agency? I mean, obviously we've had the kind of the digital era and social media really explode in the last 5 to 7 years, really kind of get rolling. How did you kind of come about that? You had, in a sense, you had to have some foresight too, to know that this is going to stick around in a lot of ways.
Bro.
Tell me kind of your approach and what was the initial kind of thing like, hey, you know what, I might do management with my life.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's funny you say that about the foresight because foresight, I think, is something that like we as men we're just not really well known for. Like, I think
True.
women have that down, and my story is a very good case study on how women call it. And so, what I mean by that is like there was a confluence. There was a lot of different things that had to happen in order to get me to where I'm at today and owning, several interesting companies. One of those was I used to have to wear a suit and tie every day for work back in the day when you went to an office, and
Mm-hmm.
liked my suits and ties. So they would always tell me to like you should start a blog. I just was not into that kind of thing. So eventually, I started a little something, started posting photos. I'm gonna cut out a lot of this story, but it ended up, with me doing that, I got into the kind of group of people around LA that go to these kind of events and they're bloggers. Like I was learning what bloggers are and meeting them and making friends with them. It led me to meet my now wife, like kind of
Crazy.
socially. Super random. That
Yeah.
whole love story is a long thing, but I randomly meet my wife, and I had started at this company based in New York. It was my first stay-at-home company, first stay-at-home job, where the company's based in New York, but I'm training all their salespeople across the country from
Mm-hmm.
my living room in California. What that afforded me was some flexibility with my schedule, where I didn't always have to be tied right to somebody looking at me in the office and making sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So for the first couple of years of my wife and I got together, my now wife and I got together in the beginning of 2013. First year or so that we were together, she's a blogger, so that's kind of the connection there. She kept asking me to help her with her business. Like she was starting to see some deals come through,
Mm-hmm.
and I would help her every once in a while with her photography, but I didn't want to mix business and pleasure, and my day job was pretty it took a lot out of me. So she was asking me for this like a year, and I was no, no.
God, man, you really kept her waiting. Jeez.
Literally, yeah, just like such a jerk, just not into it. And then I caved about in kind of like mid 2014, and I said, okay, cool, I'll help you with this stuff. I know a lot about business. I don't really care when it comes to, if you put me in the middle of a conversation and somebody's like, here, I'll give you $100 for this, I'll be like, give me 1,000. Like it's just no sweat off my back to make that
Mm-hmm.
assertion there and ask for more money or whatever. So when I started to get involved in her business, the first month where it just was me answering some emails for her and saying somebody saying like $100, I'd say 500. She quadrupled the amount of money she was making. I didn't think about this. So this is not me like saying, "Hey, okay, I'm onto something." Again, as a dude, I'm very aloof. But she started making a lot more money, and then she had some friends that were like, "Oh, man, I want to make some money too. This guy knows how to make a lot of money with this whole blogging thing. Like,
Yeah.
can you do this too? So I worked with Stephanie for a while, and then I started to take on a couple of her friends, made them some money, but it was just like 2 or 3 people, and I didn't think about it. It's little bits of money, $100 here, 500 there. I have a day job, I have health, I have benefits, right?
Mhm.
And then in 2015, like enough people wanted me to help them that I decided to put a name to it. I, called my company originally is called God and Beauty. Now we're known as G&B Digital Management, but God and Beauty started in 2015. And my wife is like, yo, you gotta, this, you should be doing this all the time. You're so good at this. And now all these people want you to work with them. And I was like, nah.
Mhm.
So for 2 more years, I didn't listen to her. I kept my day job, and I built a firm in the background. I built this agency, kind of the fledgling beginning of it in the background. Just, like in my spare time, I was working from like 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning till 1 in the morning, because I do my day job. And then between I'd be, doing deals for influencers, answering
Yeah.
emails and stuff. And she's like, you should quit. You got to quit. You got to quit. This is what you're meant to do. You should do that. And I didn't listen to her for 2 years. And then I finally quit in 2017, my day job, and just did this. And after I did, it exploded. So the moral of the story is listen to your wife.
Yep. Don't slack,
um,
you know?
right. Yeah. But it's interesting to look back. I was just talking with somebody about this weekend. It's like I started a business with $0 in a lane that I know nothing about. I just did it as a side hustle where I was making money for people, answering emails, trying to make their businesses better. And they started to grow, and it really started to manifest around me. I will say, to something you were saying earlier about, the foresight and really like being like, oh, you're onto something. I didn't, even when I was in the thick of it, I didn't really, at the beginning, I didn't think it was that real until one particular moment where the brand Chanel asked my wife to go to the south of France with them, and then asked me to come along with her and take photographs. And it was just, I've never been to, I don't think I'd been to Europe at that point. Um, so I go to the south of France with Chanel of,
Right. A pretty good gig there. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'm from a very humble background myself, like, very very grew up poor story. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I go first class, and over to the south of France, and they put me up in the Ritz Carlton in the
Damn.
south of France, which is incredible. And we have dinner and all this stuff, and I'm wearing a suit everywhere. And they took me to the flower fields where they pick the roses for Chanel number 5, what they
Man.
use to create the essence for Chanel number 5. And I got to see that whole process. And then at the end of that, I was like, damn, this is legit. This is something.
Yeah, you did some good emails there to get to that point, you know?
I know. That's where my ingenuity came in there,
Yeah.
like, just like my know-how. Yeah, because the whole Chanel thing was very random. It was just kind of like I saw some things happening and emailed some people, and it turned
Right.
out. But yeah, that made me think, okay, this blogger thing, this influencer thing is really something big. It's changing the way that we think about celebrity and storytelling and all that. So
That's
so
crazy.
yeah,
You know,
boom.
I wonder, have you thought to yourself that had you taken it more seriously at the end, like let's say the 2 years that you didn't kind of like slack off there when your wife was pushing you, if you had like really put in like this got to be a company and like I need to make it legit, it might have not happened. Maybe being kind of loose about it and not, stressing about it and thinking about investing and all the avenues that can sometimes be overwhelming or throw you off
Yeah.
or make you not want to do it. Just kind of being like cool and chill about it actually made it happen. Because if you were actually committed to it and like, oh, let's make this happen, and maybe it would have been daunting and you would have been just like, no.
Too much. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think because my personality very much is always moving one step, putting one foot in front of the other. I
Mhm.
like to try to challenge myself to say yes to things more than no. And so I think it's maybe kind of that personality trait that I have, where I was like, okay, this is easy. It didn't even, when I first started doing it, it's not like it provided me a lot of other income. It was more that I was helping, my girlfriend at the time and some of her friends,
Right.
making a little bit of change. It was interesting. It's definitely interesting. But I think you're right. Like the fact that I kept it loose and then let it kind of grow up around me. As I said, this is something I did with $0. We've never had an investor come on board, and now we're this huge company.
Wow.
And to build that from the ground up, you could stress yourself out trying to find an investor, trying to or borrow money or whatever,
Yeah.
and then have somebody looking over your pennies, trying to make it happen. I had a job that I liked. Was making friends in this space and I'm starting to understand how it worked. And it just, yeah, to what you said, it's like I kept it loose. It worked out when I was able to replace my income. But okay, cool, I'm out. And then yeah, and then never look back and boom. And here we are. Now I'm talking to you.
And seriously, I mean, that's just a heck of a story in that sense. You know how it's a lesson too that not always every road leads to doing things by the book,
Oh yeah.
by having to do that, because in this industry and again in the creative field, things just happen. You just never know where things come from. That's
Right.
that's the most daunting part about it and the most exciting at the same part, because
Yeah.
you don't know when things are going to happen or pop, or how it's going to lead to, because people sometimes like to have a roadmap. Like every profession has, like, you're a doctor, you go to school, then you go to you go to medical school, residency, and bam, you have a path to everything. But in this profession, it's like you don't know, you just kind of
Making it up.
people and make connections, and just go for it, really.
Well, for your audience, man, I'd be like, audience, listen to what Jim's saying because you're so right on the money in the sense of I see what you just said. I tell people that all the time. There was like I gave a speech at USC out here one time to these kids, and they were asking about how I got to where I was at or whatever. And I'm like, my whole story has been this like complete curveball around. It's like nothing linear. But to your point, if you want a linear life, if you want like a straight line, you that's you're a doctor, you're an accountant,
Yep.
you're lawyer, and you're on this path to be a lawyer or whatever. To get to where I'm at, you got to go through around all these corners and down dark alleys and whatever, and you
Oh,
make it.
there's ups, peaks and valleys, and there's some down times too, and with no money, nothing to show for it. Like it's exciting, but it's not for everyone, for sure. Because like if you like kind of stability, and
Yeah,
if you want something that where the end point is and how to go about it, you need to do these and these steps.
yeah,
This is gonna take you into a deep end,
yeah.
in this
No,
career too.
that's such a good point. I think people, your listeners, are gonna get a lot of value from that point right there.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through it myself in a sense where, I never even, when I look back, they're like, how did you start in, to do what I do now, interview people and talk, like, I never envisioned that. Like I wanted
Right.
to be in sports, or then I did some acting, and it just like life turned itself in so many years. I didn't even know I could do this, or had any, you
Yeah,
know, like even skill to talk to someone. It's just
right.
like one weird event led to another, where I'm suddenly like a film critic, and I'm like reviewing. I randomly write to some movie website like, hey, do you need any
Hmm.
writers? What's your experience? And nothing.
Yeah,
He's like, go see 2 movies and write about it. And then I interview someone. I've never interviewed someone. How do you do it? Just talk.
yeah,
Okay. And it just
literally it.
leads
Yeah,
to where they are, and then, yeah, even starting your own outlet too. I started my own outlet called Real Talker. And, uh, you know, I had at the point I freelance for other places, but like starting your own thing, am I
yeah,
going to get anyone to reach out to me? Am I going to get any interview opportunities anymore? But you had to have faith. So I'm
right.
like, it's, what do I have to lose? Give it a shot, put in effort, and then bam, a few years later, I'm interviewing you and all these like major celebrities, which is crazy to think. It's like when I sometimes am in LA doing a red carpet or whatnot, like I have E News next to me. I'm like, there's no way I should probably be here, but you know
Right.
what? I did the work, and I did some things right along the way to get me here.
I think one thing that a lot of people that where they get caught up, on this conversation is, and it's absolutely what I would want to admit to, is the fact that like it is terrifying. It's not. it's not scary.
Right.
It's like when I went to go turn in my resignation at the job that I had, I love that job. The people there, they love me. It was like going to be. I actually didn't even leave after I gave my turned in my notice. I didn't leave for 6 months. They like let me step out of the role slowly over six
Mm.
months but it was terrifying and I was just like, oh, I should hold on a little bit longer, keep enough hours in there so I get the health benefits, because what am I going to do if something happens after I leave or whatever. It's really scary. You try to figure out all these things in your life, but the important thing is that you keep moving towards it. You're like, all right, this is good energy, man. This is good. These are good things that we're moving towards. If you keep moving towards it, it'll work out, you know.
It's having that faith in yourself. At the end of the day, people can constantly reject you. I've had more damn rejection than I can even memorize or think of, but as long as you believe in yourself, at the end of it, like I had plenty of places I knew I was qualified or whatnot, but like, nope, they just don't see it. But you can't put yourself in someone else's like vision. Cause a lot of times people who have the power or in charge, they like to do things in a linear way that's been done for decades, or there's a way, even with talent managers in that sense, not many in a sense have the foresight, kind of like a modern person like you. A lot of them do things by the book. Well, this person needs to look this way, or they need to talk this way.
Right.
And obviously now society's evolving so many ways, and hopefully that opens up a lot of new whole open-mindedness. But you don't have the look for this or that, and you get passed over. It's not necessarily about the talent. They're kind of stuck in what is the industry they think wants,
Right.
instead of
Yeah, what's gonna make money? What's gonna
yeah.
sell?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And a lot of times, sometimes it's not about that. You can find something great by taking a risk in a sense, or going against the grain in a lot of ways. But for myself, it's just like, I know who I am and I know what I'm about. So it's like, I always keep moving forward in that way, where it's like, if I don't believe in this myself, no one else will, So in that way, you have to have in this industry a strong, not only people that support you with friends and family. I've been
Right.
fortunate, and I'm sure you have too,
Mhm.
to even leave a job like that, like you just said, to have people backing you and kind of being there for you. But that self faith in yourself, I mean, that's going to make or break it. Because at the end of the day, the only person that can make you lose out or quit is yourself if you quit, right? There's no amount of no's can say something to you to really change it unless you let it do.
Yeah. I would say like one little thing I want to throw in there,
Mhm.
just based on everything you're saying, because it's so important. If I were to give advice for your listeners on something that they can do to positively impact themselves in the way that we're talking about, is to actually speak in a positive way about somebody else. And the reason I'm saying that is because in all these steps to get to where I'm at today, and having people on my side helping me through these different parts. It's like I've had a lot of great mentors out there. I've had a lot of people really give me that confidence, like say something, just one thing to me
To
that
keep
was
you
enough
going,
for me to
right?
like, yeah, it was like enough to just say, okay, I believe in you. I think you're meant. The one thing that really like this guy I haven't talked to in probably 10 or more years. His name is Mark Thornhill. And I worked with him at this business, and he said, "What are you doing here, man?" At the business we were at, he's like, "This is not meant for you. Like you're meant for something so much bigger than this." And that always stuck with me, and because it was like he didn't intend it to be like a positive thing. He put that like positive spark in me to always think I'm meant for something bigger than this. So if I could encourage your audience at all, it's like speak that into somebody else. You're going to find it comes back to you all the time, of course. But like if you encourage somebody in that way, that's when you see people go out there and achieve these dreams and have the confidence to take that step, keep taking that step forward.
So important that encouragement. You might not even know how you impact someone, but like you said, just to validate their kind of attempt, because there's times when you doubt yourself no matter what. There's gonna be times like, am I doing the right thing, and when things are on the low. But yeah, that encouragement sparks you up, and really just simple words by someone. I remember I had a college professor, he's like, he was a mentor to a ton of people who are in network television and reporters, anchors. He's like, I don't know about you, Jim Alexander. He's like, you're unique in a way I've never had anyone for 30 years. He's like, I'll be honest, you could be either the next Ryan Seacrest or somewhere working in local small town and public access television. I'm like, well, great, Rick. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I love
No,
that sort of, at least you see a vision for me in that way too. But even like words like that, and stuff like that, people believing in you, you need those mentors
I don't
along
think
the
we
way.
get enough of that today. It's a problem in society. It's just like we're not willing to like just reach out and tell somebody, hey, I believe in you enough. To get them to really think, okay, there is something at any age. There's something more I can do. There's something I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to do this, but I could do even more. Like it's just so important to keep that positivity train going. You know.
No question.
Anyway.
Yeah. What I'm curious, what do you look for in talent now that you've kind of, you're in the industry, you see so many influencers and, people who are in the public eye. What are some keys that you look for who you in someone you want to represent or things that stand out to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and it's a question I think I get a lot because there's a lot of people that just want to be influencers today. I really feel like the ability to be influential, there's never been a time in history where the power shifted away from celebrities and bigwig thinkers, to the common person,
Right.
to you and I that are just sitting at home making content, right? So it's really interesting. What we look at when we're trying to find a talent that really deserves representation. In the world of influencer, I would say there's like two types of influencers. I mean, there's multiple, but if we like take it down to like who should be getting your viewership, there are some people that are there to like create something meaningful that is going to inspire others, in some way. And that's important. It's like even if they didn't start out with that blueprint of like what I'm building here is going to inspire others, they get there. And you see that when you follow somebody online who has 10,000 followers, 100,000 followers, whatever it is, but there is a large community response to them, what they're doing, right? They're, sharing about their post post postpartum depression. That's a huge
Mhm.
thing, like a big topic for women. The depression that comes after they have their child, and then you have this mom that's on social media that's sharing about this very real feeling that is shared by a lot of women out there, and the community that engages and grows around that and supports each other. And you can see in metrics. It's a cool thing about influencer on these social media platforms. You see the response in metrics and real data. You see, okay, well, they've got 200,000 followers, that looks good, but they also have, on every post that they're putting out there, 20,000 likes and 1,000 comments. Like people are really, really invested in what they've created and the story they're telling or what they're sharing, right? So that's definitely one type of person that's out there today in the world of influencer, is somebody who is sharing something meaningful and then a community grows up around them. I
Mhm.
will say right now, because I'm going to give you the kind of the other, that is what we're looking for. Like when I look for talent, we look for people who are sharing really remarkable, like there is real talent behind what they're doing in a sense. At the beginning of G&B, what I used to say is we represent photographers, videographers, and writers, like really actually skilled people, not
Right.
just, somebody who's taking a picture with an iPhone or whatever and slapping it up there. I've broadened that over the years. It's like not just those three lanes and that express talent. There is a whole talent to how grow a community and what you talk about. So it doesn't have to be the most curated images. Can just really be what do you talk about each day and how real you are with people and how you draw them in. There's a whole science to that. So anyway, so the person who's out there to create a community and engage with them, that's what we're looking for. On the other side, you see there's a lot of profiles out there, and they're not really adding anything to the space. It could be a bikini girl. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with the bikini girl, but she's not really. There's not a lot being added to the space. It's just imagery or whatever. And
Yeah.
sure, it might get a lot of likes. There might be a lot of followers out there, that want to see those images just for the dopamine hit. But it's not really something that I find is like monetizable in the world of influence. Like we really want, and what we found that brands want and what they respond to are people who can get out there and serve, and like serve up a real story. Take the item that they're going to give you, As with the example of Chanel working with my wife, they brought her to the south of France and they brought me to shoot photos. And she created, there was no requirements on this trip. There was no like outline of what she had to do to
Mhm.
fulfill like a contract or whatever. But she went and she created the most beautiful stories, just multiple blog posts, so many photos and things like that. Ideas came out of it. And she told, 100 beautiful stories out of that. So it's like, that's what I want to see when I'm looking for somebody to bring on board is really what are they adding to the space? How is the community really responding to them? Is the community responding to them? Because that lets us know, hey, this is somebody we can work with and that a brand is probably going to want to work with at some level.
It's that creativity, that extra layer of not only what can the industry's changed in the last few years so much. You remember like even kind of like with hosts and everything, like there was like, people who read off the teleprompter and look right. But like I realized what at least works for me is, man, I'm just being myself. Every
Yeah.
day, it's like I'm not putting on a phony act. I'm just being myself, whether people like it or not. But it's relatable. I hear that feedback. It's just like, that it's relatable, that I want to be thought of as the guy in, middle of like Oklahoma. I'd be like, oh yeah, I recognize that guy. And he's kind of like, and I think that's what in today's world, really people gravitate to this, not only the creativity part, but a relatability where like, what, I deal with that too,
Yeah,
humanizing yourself,
absolutely.
humanizing yourself. And it's simple as that in a way.
Yeah, it's really about sharing yourself. That's why I said the power is shifted from the celebrity, somebody who's untouchable. You can't hang out with Brad Pitt or,
Right.
Gal Gadot as much as you want to. It's like that's why at the beginning of the pandemic there was this really interesting backlash against there was the celebrities that all got together and
Oh
sang a
yeah,
mass.
yeah. Yep, the video. Yep.
Yeah, the video there was like this crazy backlash against these, celebrities who were sitting in their mansions and whatever. Well, we're us normal folk are all out here trying to figure out whatever the heck COVID is, right?
Mhm.
And that to me, it's like I was already talking about this, at the beginning of the year and in the years prior. It's like there has been a sizable shift away from celebrity in the traditional sense. Sure, there is definitely a place. Obviously, there is a real talent that we call acting,
Mhm.
and you need that to create, certain types of content. But there is this incredible space of real people that are sharing something that you and I can really feel, even if they do hold up, a pack of Oreos every once in a while to make that sponsored money,
Mhm.
to keep their profile going. Like they're sharing something that is got this quality to it that you just can't get from the run of the mill, the person who's been put at the top,
Yep.
celebrity that's been placed up there.
Do you think that's where the industry's headed? Like where you've had some good foresight kind of in your career, and seeing how things are, and it's all kind of came to true to life. How do you see the industry now after the pandemic, which kind of it's another reinforcement saying that we kind of want people who are as relatable as us who are dealing with this, but where
Yeah.
do you kind of see it now, and maybe kind of going for trending towards the future?
Well, I'll give you the secret sauce from me. It's like
Yes.
uh, I haven't really gotten out there too much with these thoughts, but really, what we see in all the data, what we see in trends and things like that, is that like influence is not just here; it is the thing. The industry was 9 billion. There was about $9 billion pumped into influencer marketing in 2019. This year, we're looking at an industry that's almost well, they were saying by 2022, 2021. No, sorry, just to get my facts straight. 2022, it's going to double.
Wow.
So you're going from, 9 billion to about 15, 16 billion. And we've seen, of course, on the extreme levels, they're saying in just a couple of years, it could be upwards of 23 billion. That kind of growth is exponential because people have really shifted in terms of what they want. The pandemic has only further pushed the fact that like, influencer marketing is the way to go. There's very simple, reasons behind that in a pandemic society where we're all at. We were just talking about being locked down, before we really got into the big conversation. I'm not going out as much. I'm not seeing billboards. We're not going to the mall with friends. So also, there's not the advertising opportunity of getting somebody in the mall who's just like window shopping. There's not the reinforcing quality of shopping with your friends and things like that. So what do you have in place of that? You have influencers, these people that you think at some level they are relatable. They're talking about something that you might want to use that might be valuable to you, and they're showing you how they use it in their lives in a more dynamic way than somebody who's just like a model who's posed and whatever, who's aspirational, who's there to inspire you but not really giving you the real life sensibility of why you would have that piece of clothing or
Right.
the food item, whatever. So everything is shifting towards influencer. The exciting thing and the daunting part of that is that you have to, if you extrapolate that thought out, and put it a few years in the future, everybody is an influencer. There are people who are going to opt out of that system, whatever the system looks like that at
Hmm.
that time. It's like my dad, certainly not going to be an influencer. He's just
You
on
never
Facebook.
know.
Yeah, you never know, but yeah, that would be. I'm like laughing at the thought of this now. But yeah, it's just like you could give a can of spaghetti to anybody, to a mom in Iowa, and she could post about it. And if she gets more spaghetti because she posted about the spaghetti, I think that's going to make her really happy, And I think we already see that. It's like whether it is monetary compensation or this whole gifting world, product exchange kind of economy. There's an economy that's been created behind influencers that is an exchange of things. I like the money side, but people are
Right.
really happy with the spaghetti side, and that's cool. But again, it's like there is a what's that show called, Black Mirror. There's a Black Mirror episode about this, how literally all advertising, in order to do anything, you have to basically advertise like a little
Yep.
bit for somebody else. So Black Mirror was really the one that's ahead of the time. And it's like I don't know what they were reading or seeing that made them think about this and get it in the form of a script, and then get it into a show a couple of years ago now.
Right.
But they were on the money, and that's literally where I see us going today. It's like my job as an agency owner is
Mhm.
to protect talent that are really at the peak, and the pinnacle of this group. I think it's great that the group is growing exponentially. I think there's room for everybody. But as people rise to the top and they're starting to be used in more interesting and intricate ways through these partnerships, that's why you have somebody like me and our management agency in place to really steward them through that and help them continue to grow.
What is it that exactly your agency could do so like people would know like what's your job on a daily basis, so you have a talent submitting, you guys review it if you're interested or not. What kind of work that you do on a daily basis that to kind of nourish the talent and put them out there?
Yeah, so my company is really particular. There's a lot of different agencies in this space. We are lucky. I will say this is kind of like something I was thinking about earlier. We're lucky that I've been doing this for about 7 years now. The agency's been around for 6 years, which is not a long time, but the industry's really only been popping for about 10 years. There was about 10 years ago in 2010, the first digital management agency started. So I came in this like middle area where there was not a lot of other competitors. There's certainly not as many as there are today. So I have longevity. I have years on these people. There can be a lot of competitors, but they don't know everybody today. They don't have
Hmm.
those same connections that I've been able to build. So I came in at a lucky time. And the way that we work with talent is like we use the depth of all those connections that I started with, and now my company and the people that work for me are building every day. There's like an exchange in a sense. We start a relationship together. I bring in a talent. They get the benefit of being associated with our name, but beyond that, I mean, that's like sort of a benefit. But we have 16,000 or more contacts at different brands and agencies that do these deals. And so what we try to do with each person that we've decided to bring on, because it's a special thing, it's a huge nugget of trust that an individual gives you to say, hey, I'm going to give my business over to you, and in hopes that you steward it and make me bigger and better at what I'm doing, right? So we get a lot of trust from them, and we give them a lot of services back. We take care of their whole business from a 360 approach. We look at all the emails that are coming in. We manage all their contracts. We have a legal team that's reviewing all of the different nuance of the contracts that we're having to sign. And if you're an individual out there, an individual influencer, you don't have that benefit. Like you could hire a lawyer, of course, but that's a pretty spendy
Right.
endeavor.
Yeah,
So
especially
what we
for this deal.
nobody wants to do that. But what we found is that a lot of influencers on their own, they don't do that. They don't find legal help and counsel, and they sign things that are
Right.
terrible for them to sign
No question.
all the time. And so, we provide those services to insulate them, to talk through every program or opportunity that comes their way. We have a dynamic business development team. So every person that we manage, they have incoming work, that generally that we only bring on an influencer who has interest, so they're brands that are interested in them. And so they'll have incoming work, but then we also help create another side to their business by pitching them out to our contacts, by giving them access to those brands and agencies that we have access to. So we want to create a really healthy balance of where the work is coming from. And that's been especially fruitful during a time like this in the pandemic, where a lot of people saw their salaries cut, their opportunities go away, and evaporate. And, I can say confidently that because of the way that we manage our talent, we've been able to keep people, up and afloat. We didn't have to cut anybody's salaries during this whole time. We didn't have to like drop anybody, any talent. We didn't have to, get rid of bonuses or whatever, because we had this really great back and forth, like two sides, a holistic, view of each person's business. And at the end of the day, especially during a time like this, it was just so important for me and my team to make sure that we're keeping food on people's tables, and that's really how I look at each of these talent. It's like they're not just talent anymore. At a certain point, a lot of them are making money to support their families. There's quite a few women that we manage whose their husbands quit their jobs and now support them in the home while they're making this influencer money thing happen. And so we feel just as responsible as anybody else to make sure that we're keeping the flow coming in and keeping interest and activity going on around them, so that they at the end of the day can keep the food on the table.
I got to ask you before we kind of wrap things up.
Yeah.
The thing I thought it was super cool that how much, you're kind of at the forefront and, very current to the times, how you're biracial yourself and how you've put that into your agency too, the need to diversify and kind of the focus on that too. I wanted to hear your perspective on that, because I think it's really important these days, and for you who kind of knows both sides firsthand, is that better than anyone at understanding what it is to be both, someone that has in a sense the white privilege, and then also know the black struggle in a sense too. Tell me how you've incorporated that to your agency, because I think that's really important these days, and that's cool that you're doing.
No, Jim, thank you for asking about that. I mean, it is really important. It's really important for me, especially to hear that question, not just because I'm a biracial individual, but because talking about this is coming months after the whole nation was talking about it.
Right.
And in the middle of the summer, or at the beginning of the summer after George Floyd's murder, like all the conversation was going on around this, and I was certainly I was part of that, which we'll talk about, but to have the question asked here in December of the year is really important, because what you see happen in a lot of cases, and a lot of people brought this up, it's like, yeah, everybody's talking about racial equality. There's a lot of people getting canceled, in the middle of the summer, and a lot of companies getting canceled for the things they were doing or not doing when it came to equitable business practices. But over time, once you get beyond that moment, it's definitely something that we've always seen that gets swept under the rug.
Yep. It settles down, everything
Down.
quiet after the storm, that sort of
Right.
thing. Yep.
Yeah. So I always think it's great to talk about and just keep, what happened, just in terms of my personal story on all this, and just really like how we've weaved it into our company is, as a biracial individual, I had this really strange, like you were saying, it is kind of a split experience in life, where the black struggle for me, because my dad is black and my mom's white,
Mhm.
the black struggle for me really was until I was born. There was, when people have asked me about this in the past, it's like there's a really interesting backstory just on the family side for me of a lot of resistance to me being a potential human being because of the fact that my parents were in an interracial
Right.
relationship, right? And so there was a lot of things, and there was a lot of hateful things that we don't have time for today, but the true nuggets of the story. And then upon being born, like obviously, for those who are seeing me on camera, I'm white passing. I
Mhm.
lived in a predominantly white community growing up. I do have black family, and I've actually really connected more with my black family during this year than any other point in my life. And so it's been a really incredible year for me personally to discover the full nature of who I am. So how that relates to the business side of things, what people and we're talking about with equality and influence is that there's actually a really great meme that came out this summer that really summarized equality and influence very well. And somebody put it out, and they put like the emoji of a white person all across this grid. It was supposed to be like a mock Instagram grid, the little white emoji. And then now that we're talking about Black Lives Matter, now okay, now every brand, every person put the one black person into their campaign. Like just
Mm.
every brand rushed to get somebody black on their campaigns as fast as possible to show that they were, being equitable and diverse and whatnot. And we as an agency, we had a really interesting interview in like June, where a magazine was saying, hey, like, why are you guys even talking about this? Because we started to talk about like why it's important, for influencers to pay attention to diversity. And this magazine was like, this nobody's asking you guys to talk about this. Like as a talent agent, nobody's going to care what you say, like in the sense of you don't have to like go out there and show any leadership. I'm at the end of the decision funnel. A brand makes the decision, talent's involved. I don't really have to say anything. All I have to do is collect a check. And I said, well, how could we not? Like we are helping to represent a lot of different people and a lot of different voices out there. So, I'm lucky as a diverse owner. I think for me, diversity is just it's a natural thing. When
Yep.
we started the agency, our first talent was a non-white talent. Our first 3 or 4 talent were all non-white. So it's not something I thought about. It's not something I was angling towards, but it just happened to be what it was. And so we've always had this thread of diversity, where there wasn't just this like huge imbalance of white talent versus black talent or other talent. And it's something we like in the early days we noticed was like an issue. I would go to events with some of the influencers, and there would be 1 or 2 token talent from like if we're sitting at a table, 1 or 2 that are non-white and the rest would be white. Something we noticed, we knew about, and now it's like a huge conversation this year. So we really put it out there to our brand partners and other agencies, and to our talent themselves. As an agency owner, what I felt like one of the biggest points of leadership that I could take is within our own talent pool, saying, hey guys, it's okay to talk about this, especially for my white talent, my Caucasian talent. Like, I want you a part of this conversation right now. I want you to, feel comfortable. I want you to know what I think about it and what some of the other people are saying about it, so that you can feel comfortable to get in this conversation, not feel like you're going to get canceled. Excuse me, canceled. And if people are starting to backlash against you because of something you say, as if you're trying to be a positive voice in here and yet it's causing backlash, here are ways that we can deal with this together. I want to support you. I want to support everybody in this firm. And so we created all these resources to talk about this, and really make sure that people felt comfortable with what's going on, and also knew where I stand as a business owner, as the owner of and leader of the business. Is where I stand. And then I put in the power of the people that work for me, my employees, to go out there and start to push back against these brands and agencies and the campaigns they plan, and start asking questions like, how
Mhm.
many diverse talent are on this campaign that you're planning? What is overall, instead of just thinking about what is our one talent, how much they're getting paid for this campaign, and what do they have to do? Tell us what the whole thing looks like now, so we
Yep.
can get an understanding of how it's all going to work together. And so we just saw a really great, a lot of positive feedback. There was a little negative feedback, a little blowback, because of
You'll
us
get
taking.
that, but
You'll
whatever.
get that.
You
But,
can't let that be, the changing point for you, at any way.
right. Yeah, yeah, it was interesting. There was a couple talent that we managed that we ended up parting ways with because they just were so anti what they were seeing going on. And so that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, it was just, I think there's ownership that everybody needs to take on this conversation. There's nobody that thinks, they can really sit on the sidelines for this whole thing, whether it's an agency owner, an influencer. I think that's what 2020 has really showed us about the power and impact of influencers. Before that, you could really be an influencer and just show your pretty photography, maybe do some sponsor content. You didn't really have to get political, you didn't have to get too deep into topics and things like that. But 2020 flipped that script, with having to talk about the pandemic, having to talk about Black Lives Matter and whatnot, getting pushed into uncomfortable spaces about the election and whatnot. It's really challenged influencers to show up and have an attitude, towards something, have an opinion about something other than just, their avocado toast.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I think that's great. And I think that's really cool that you're living your truth. It's like a sense that you're bringing in your personal experience and not making about, in a sense, about the business and stuff, but your true feelings and your true beliefs. You're supporting that with your talent and to these brands. Because remember, the brands need the talents too to operate, right? I mean,
right.
these companies need the talents. Without talents, they can't do that. So
Yeah.
if you're keeping it real like that, and then they got to recognize it sooner or later, because if more business owners do that, and more especially agency owners, and don't just kind of go for the buck in a sense, that's
Yeah.
a respectable thing about it. It's like you need to be truthful to yourself, and not the green that's flashing at you, because that will come
Yeah.
and go, but your true ethics will always stay and be talked about and known. People will know you for your ethics eventually.
Absolutely. And I think it was really just, and I think this is still true in a lot of different conversations we're trying to have right now. It's about creating that open space, like where, like you were saying, it's the agency owners who have to get involved. It's the talent themselves that have to say, okay, I want to know more than just receiving the dollar at the end of the day. I want to know what this campaign looks like. And I want to advocate for other voices that I feel are missing from the campaign. It's creating a comfortable space, and what we try to do is create some tools and resources to get people their comfortable levels up there. But yeah, it's like once we're all part of the conversation, it's a lot easier conversation to have when everybody's a part of it. So
No question. It takes everyone to build a foundation, to build a home. It doesn't take one person, to pull all the weight. So that's why if everyone pitches in and does their part, that's how things become natural, and become acceptable and become noticed, is when everyone kind of pulls for it. So I just think it's fantastic that you're doing that, and keep the conversation going. It's like events happen, and then there's always like a big reaction, but then things kind of settle down and back to normal. But if you're keep on doing what you believe in, that's when things long term really make an impact. So that's fantastic that you're using your platform to be authentic that way and make change.
thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, I had a blast talking to you. I
Yeah,
think
absolutely,
so
man. Thank you.
cool to get your perspective on things, and to see kind of the industry is changing. It's one thing about this industry, it's constantly evolving. It's like literally it used to be like year to year, now then month to month, now it's almost week to week. Things change
Right.
constantly, and being able to adapt
Right.
and roll with the times. And this year I think taught us so much about what people want to see and hear, and how things should be done. That's one big lesson to take away.
Yeah.
And it seems like you've done a fantastic job of adapting to the climate and what is going on, and not just kind of standing on the laurels of the past.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah. One foot. That's been a big theme through today's conversation, is always putting one foot forward, in front of the other. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Take care, brother.
Yeah. Stay safe and healthy to you and your wife.
Hey.
Bye bye.